In today's video, let's count down the top 5 credit cards in Canada that offer the highest cashback on groceries. Let's start. At number 5, we have the BMO Cashback World Elite MasterCard. This card offers 10% cashback on groceries, which at first might make it seem like the winner, but 10% actually only applies for the first 3 months. And if you look at the annoying fine print, the 10% only applies to groceries up to $500. After that, you get 5%, which is still awesome, but again, there is a spending limit of $500 per statement cycle. After that $500, the cashback goes down to 1%. So you can see how tricky it can get to really compare these different credit cards because they advertise the 10% in bold letters and leave reading the TNCs to you. But don't worry, I looked up the fine print for you. Now, to make apple-to-apple comparisons, let's just say that each month Joe and his wife, 2 people, use their credit card to spend $1,000 on groceries, $300 in recurring payments like bills and subscriptions, $200 on gas, and $250 on everything else. And finally, $2,000 on rent. This is my calculation for how much you can get in net cash back over 3 years. Credit cards usually offer welcome rewards, extra high cashback percentages, and free annual fee in the beginning. So if we only compare based on the first year, it can skew the cashback amounts quite a bit. The first cashback you get with BMO Cashback World Elite MasterCard is 10% within 3 months, up to $500 of grocery spending. 10% times $500 is $50. After that, you get 5% cashback on groceries, but only on the first $500 you spend each payment cycle. So in the first year, you can earn 5% on $500 times 11 months, assuming that the first $500 covered under the 10% is not counted again. In the second and third year, your total grocery spend cashback at 5% is $6,000, $500 times 12 months. That's why it's so important not to get fooled by the percentages alone. You also need to look at the spending cap. If you spend $500 exactly, then this card is your friend. But if you spend more than that in groceries each month, you'll only earn 1% on the remaining spend. So adding up everything, applying 5%, you'll get a cashback of $875 over 3 years. But remember, Joe's monthly groceries are $1,000, so I've added the residual $500 per month in this row down here, which is $6,000 per month. That gets us only 1% or $180 in cashback. But don't forget, there's an annual fee of $120. It's waived in the first year, so over 2 years, you'll pay $240 in annual fees. After taking this off the cashback amount, our net cashback from groceries is $865. See, this is what annoys me about these credit card offers. It's so complicated to arrive at how much cashback you'll actually get. I'm doing these calculations based on my best interpretations of the terms. What if this were your only card and you used it for all of your expenses? How much cashback would you get then? And let's now also add Joe's other expenses, 2% on recurring expenses, but only up to $500 per cycle. That adds up to $216 in cashback over 3 years. Also 3% on gas on up to $300 per month. That's another $216. On everything else, we get 1% unlimited. So we assume Joe spends $250 on everything else, and I'll also add the remaining money he spends on groceries to get to $1,000 per month. So that's $270 in cashback. Plus, the huge 10% cashback not only applies to groceries, but also to other categories, but only up to a total of $260 worth of cashback. So I've added the difference, which is $210 here. Note that this part of the calculation is not precise, but pretty close. Our total cashback now is $1,837 minus $240 in annual fees equals $1,597 in net cashback. Divided by 3 years, that's $532 in net cashback per year. Not bad, but this is not the best card yet. And then there's also rent. Usually rent is not counted as a recurring expense by credit card companies. Stupid, right? But in case you don't know yet, there is a financial service called CheckC that allows you to do that. When you pay your rent via CheckC, your rent payments will then be regarded as recurring expenses by the credit card company, and you can benefit from the cashback. But BMO only pays 2% cashback on the first $500 in recurring expenses. So if we subtract the $300 we already included up here, it leaves us with $200 spending per month or $2,400 per year that can get cash backed. Also, this service, Chexi, charges a 1.75% fee, so we're left with 2% minus 1.75 equals 0.25%. So our rent cashback is negligible at $18. But don't worry, we have 4 more credit cards that are better. At number 4, we have the American Express SimplyCash Preferred Card. Again, super enticing offer of $400 in statement credits. Within the first 10 months in each billing cycle in which you spend $750, you'll get $40 in cashback. So I'm going to put it down here as a lump sum cashback. This Amex card gives us 4% cashback on groceries, but it's capped at a maximum of $1,200 in cashback each year. So after inputting Joe's grocery spending of $12,000 each year, and because that's below the yearly cap, he can get the full $1,440 in cashback over 3 years. The annual fee is also $120 per year, but right now I don't see any waiver on the first year. So over 3 years, you'd pay $360 in annual fees. After taking that off, purely from grocery spending, you'd get $1,080 in cashback, over $200 more than the last card. 4% on gas, resulting in $288 in cashback, and 2% on everything else. That would also include Joe's recurring payments. So in total, we have 2% on $550 per month, and over 3 years, that would give him a cashback of $396. And after the annual fees, the net cashback is $2,164 or $721 per year. If you're also using this card for rent, I couldn't find a cap on that spending limit. So if you use Chexi to pay your rent, and assuming you get cashback on the entire amount, you can get a net cashback of $180. Total net cashback after 3 years is $2,344. Which is a considerable amount. In this video, I'm not going through the details of how Chexi works. You can watch this video here if you want to know more about using Chexi to earn cashback from your rent payments. Or you can sign up directly by using my referral link in the descriptions below. Moving on to number 3, we have the Meridian Visa Infinite Cashback Card. And I was quite surprised at the result, perhaps because I haven't seen this card advertised as much. This card pays 4% cashback on groceries, 2% on utility bills, and 1% on any other purchases. I couldn't find information about the spending limits on their website. Maybe it's buried in the fine print somewhere, but according to this website, the 4% and 2% categories have a spending limit of $25,000 per year, which is quite standard. So again, I'm going to plug in all the numbers, and after the annual fee, which is $99 per year and waived for the first year, our net grocery cashback is $1,242. This is $414 per year, which is a lot. Meridian also offers one-time reward points valued at $50, so I added that here. And after adding up all the other cashback on utilities and gas, our total net cashback is $1,724. But note that the Meridian card doesn't seem to accept rent payments through Chexi as recurring expenses warranting cashback. Purely as a grocery cashback card, it's pretty good though. At number 2 is the Scotiabank Momentum Visa Infinite card. This card gives you 10% cashback on groceries and other purchases for the first 3 months, up to $2,000 in total purchases. So if we use all of that 10% on groceries, our cashback is $200. After that, you get 4% cashback on groceries and recurring expenses. So I charted out the remaining grocery spending, and that adds up to $1,360 in cashback over 3 years. So our total net grocery cashback here is $1,560 minus 2 years of annual fees of $120 each. The first year here is waived as well, equals $1,320. That's on average $440 per year. By the way, I'm currently not sponsored by any of these cards, but I want to share with you my personal experience with this one. I had the Scotiabank Momentum Visa Infinite card. Why are these names so long? For about 2 years now, so I have actually experienced getting the cashback. As of today, I have earned $399 in cashback on this card. Yes, it actually works. Mostly, but not just on groceries. And that's since around November last year. And this is how it works. The cashback will be paid out each year in November, specifically for this card. And you can choose how you want to receive it. You can get it as a credit statement, but I usually choose to get it transferred into my checking account. I generally prefer cards that pay you straight dollar amounts instead of points, because I can skip the step of calculating how many points result in how many dollars. Just give me the cash. And this extra $400 I'll receive in cashback can go into my investment account. Remember that although saving money is super important, don't make the mistake of only focusing on savings. Yes, you can save $300, $400 per year on groceries, but you could earn even more by investing your money. If you had $10,000 and it grows at just 6% per year, that's an increase of $600. In case you haven't started yet or you're looking to move to a better investment platform, consider Wealthsimple. I've been using it for the longest time. There's no minimum amount to get started and there are no fees for buying and selling stocks. Use my referral link in the descriptions, and if you open and fund an account, both you and I will get a bonus of $25 each. Now back to the video. On to number 1. The credit card with the highest grocery cashback is the CIBC Dividend Visa Infinite card. At first glance, also super enticing offer, 10% cashback for the first 4 billing statements, up to $250. So that corresponds with a grocery value of $2,500 in year 1. Next, you'd get 4% cashback on groceries up to a yearly spending of $20,000. So I've added the grocery amounts here. Remember, Joe's spending is $1,000 per month on groceries, and we get to a grocery cashback of $1,590. After taking off annual fees of 2 times $120 per year, the annual fee for the first year is also waived here. Our total net cashback from groceries is $1,350. If we purely compare the grocery cashback component, this CIBC card has just a slight edge over the earlier Scotiabank card, just because with the CIBC card, you can get 10% on your first $2,500 spending, while the Scotia card only gives you 10% on your first $2,000 spending. So if you're stuck choosing between these two, let's go a step further and add up other expenses. After adding all the other expenses minus the annual fees for 2 years, our net cashback here is $1,954. So even when we include all expenses, the Scotiabank and the CIBC card offer almost the same amount of cashback. The tiebreaker would be adding rent into the equation. When using this CIBC card to pay rent via the service Chexi, your rent payments will count as recurring expenses. And the cap is very high at an annual spend of $80,000. Scotiabank's card had a cap of $25,000 per year. With a net cashback percentage of 0.25%, Chexi's fees, this amounts to $180 over 3 years after Chexi's fees, and brings us to a total net cashback of $2,134. This is assuming there are no other hidden terms somewhere in the fine print. I know that was a lot, so let's take a look at the summary. If you spend $1,000 per month on groceries, these are the card rankings and net cashback amounts you could earn over 3 years. Each year, you could lose out on hundreds of dollars by not using a cashback card. Here's also the summary of the card rankings if you use the credit cards for other expenses as well. And finally, including rent. Now, my final tip to save more money. Don't make this one mistake. Sometimes high cashback percentages entice us to spend more money. It makes us think, I can spend more on groceries now because anyway, I'll get 4% back. But this is a trap many people fall into. To truly benefit from cashback, stick to your grocery budget as far as you can. Then take those cashback savings and add them to your investments so they can grow to thousands over the years. If you've been postponing investing and want to learn how to get started, check out this video on investing in Canada for beginners.